Hi there. So it is Saturday evening. I have a pre-recorded video that's coming out on Monday, so I'll probably just double post that day, and so that's when you'll be seeing this. So this is a little bit of a global prediction maybe. I'm not quite sure. It's just, I don't know if it's a prediction or what it is. It's just something that's being told to me. And so I want to express this to you guys because I feel like this could be significant for someone out there. So if you watch my recent videos, you see kind of the context of what has been going on, at least with regards to where my mind's at, right? And I talk about my global readings, and I still wonder about a flooding. It feels like that has not quite occurred to the capacity that they intended, and any sort of natural disasters that has been simulated throughout that time, but it wasn't to the capacity that they expected. I feel like there's going to be another rollout of this to a greater capacity. However, I get reminded of the Great Depression, as far as once again the crops. It's like dry crops, and I know I mentioned that in my global reading, but it feels like salt water. So like if there was flooding and then it dried, like it absorbed the nutrients out of the soil and left it over processed or dry, like something like that. There's not a capacity to absorb the nutrients and grow produce. So I do feel compelled once again to advise you that if you are able to prepare in any way that seems available to you, just for a rainy day, you don't have to go overboard, then to do that or continue to do that. Take into consideration if we were in some sort of lockdown, like that could be another example, right? Where you have toothpaste, just like regular stuff to make yourself comfortable and feel secure. The biggest message that I'm getting is whatever it is that keeps coming up in these visions, I'm saying today, then back then, and then everything that's happened in between, that this, just kind of repeating things I've said, where no pain goes without waste. There will be a time where that relief comes, and there's a greater appreciation and maturing and understanding and enlightening as a whole for people involved. So there is good that is going to come out of this. It's about maintaining your composure and your not compromising your beliefs, not compromising who you are, and there's just a lot of love like with this card, and well, all of these actually, is this, it's eerie to me. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little eerie because these past couple of videos that I did, that what prompted me to make those series of videos is I felt like Armageddon vibes, and that's not to scare anyone. I don't think that should be scary anyway, but it feels like that, and it's kind of surreal to think, because I talk about things and maybe some of them are accurate, whatever, but for something this drastic, I mean, it makes sense, right? It makes sense from anything. If you've watched, like, let's say you've watched the majority of my videos, it would make sense from the things I'm saying. But to be living in it would seem very strange. And then if you take into consideration all the kinds of people who kind of say that stuff flippantly, then it loses its shine, at least for me. You know, like you see a bunch of spiders and you're like, oh, it's the end of the world, I knew it's coming, like these are the end of time. So it's like funny, but especially for someone like me, I never read Revelation, so I don't quite know. But the feeling that I get is that those in power have positioned themselves to artificially, like, simulate what happens in Revelations in order for massive control. The problem is, as I've said, demons, evil can only copy. So they're very limited. Even if it's a highly intelligent species or whatever you want to say, entity, they're only copies of what exists. And the only thing that's truly powerful is creation, right? And you have to be enlightened, you have to be godly in order to create. Whether you identify with that or not, that's what you're doing. It's you're tapping into your purest form. And so it's kind of like, I'll give you an example really quick, to kind of hopefully get my point across. So I talked about my evil ex-best friend before, and a long story short, at the end of our friendship, she knows I'm like big into God, even though I've personally never read the Bible through and through. And what she did was try to weaponize the Bible against me. She literally went through the Bible looking for quotes to use towards me, because she had just made things up. She was just being delusional, like jealous and delusional. And so it was very ironic, because the things that she was sending were things like, I can't even remember, I can look at it, but it's like quotes in the Bible about how evil will always reveal itself, and that the truth will always come out and will vindicate the honorable person, and all this kind of stuff. And I was thinking, how powerful is God truly, that she thinks she's doing bad, but all it did was trick her into reading the Bible and to giving me passages, like God speaking through her to me, because it ended up all of her lies were revealed. It ended up, that I had been vindicated and freed from everything that she had, tried to create. And so that's essentially what I see, where as long as you're on the right side of life, and just being an honorable and good person, a virtuous person, you're fine. You don't have to worry about anything. And again, there's some sort of blessing in this. When I look at these two cards, I feel like I see a key, an image of a key that is represented by this card. Like, this card is an individual that is unlocking this window, and even though it doesn't seem like a blessing right now, in the future it will be revealed that it is actually a good thing, no matter the short-term outcome. So that's what I see for that. Now, stepping to the next subject, I want to talk about war. I just want to put in perspective of a couple things. So I just want to lay it out this way because I feel like it's important that I do this. Looking at it as two chess players, right, and chess pieces. In order to get the king, you have to get through all the pawns, right? I mean, you don't have to, but you have to outsmart. And what am I trying to say? One person is trying to get to the king with minimal casualties to the kingdom. However, the other one does not care. They'll take out their pawn. They'll sacrifice their pawns. They'll sacrifice their king, queen. They'll sacrifice all of that and slash all of this. It's gonna be just a melee. They don't care. Now, the strategy of this person, the melee person, is I'm gonna just go crazy and hopefully overwhelm and confuse them. Like, this other one's gonna be kind of like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing that? That makes no sense. You're just, it's like sending out kamikazes, like just like crazy stuff going on. But this person, because they're acting from a place of divine source, they will be able to overcome and outsmart because they're always creating. These people are only copying. The problem is, in order for the good person, we'll put in quotes like that, good and bad, I don't know, and this is just another like side example of things to kind of give you a greater whole, because I don't know what these mean necessarily. And so what they're going to feel like they have to do in some ways is send a message to the king. Hey, I'm gonna weaken your system by taking casualties, because then that weakens their ability to defend themselves. And so they don't want to, but that's the position that they are at in the art of war. I have to weaken them in order to get there. That's another thing. Moving on to the third subject, and then I'm stopping here. I had this dream last night, and I saw the Baltic Sea. It was like shaped, and I was like, and I could see the name Baltic Sea. And then I started pulling out, and well, I couldn't pull out of my vision until I acknowledged that I'm not looking at the Baltic Sea, and I identified the color. And the color of the blue was on a globe. It was like that sky blue. So then I was able to unlock it and pull out. And I was looking at the globe, and I was kind of like happy because I could identify, and I'm really bad at geography, but I was able to identify places. And so I started at Baltic Sea, and I started pulling out, and it stopped me. And it looks very much like this. The world, and it's on its axis, right? And there's this part right here that looks similar to this, but it was more like a triangle, and then this was kind of superimposed on it, and it was up on top like that, and it was twirling and shaking, you know, like when you unscrew the top of a finial, like the finial, you're unscrewing it, it was shaking, vibrating, and it was upsetting the world. Like the world was vibrating like crazy, and it split. Like up here, it split. And on one side, it felt free. It felt like it just felt free. I don't know how to explain it, just without bounds. And the other side felt bound and restricted, and it was really difficult to even get over there because it was dull, like darkened kind of. It was like dark, but what I could tell from over there was it was showing me astrology and showing me astronomy. And it was, oh, and it had a protractor on top of this, the finial, we'll call it a finial. It had a protractor superimposed, and you could see like the numbers and stuff, and then that was superimposed. And yeah, so it was showing me astrology, and astrology felt very expansive, and it was like something, it was like kind of being shown to me, like pointing how astrology is it would be like the land, and astronomy is the land, and astrology is the map. And so with astrology is guiding beings or entities onto the roadmap of the stars. And there's a lot of uncharted territory within the solar system, but astrology is guiding the limited scope of what these entities are aware of. And I've talked before about star trackers, so I call them, they track the stars, and they use astrology to identify qualities within people, and it kind of gives them like a frame of reference. So it's like basing astrology to tell, like, let's say there's some sort of coding, so you can look at the stars, you can use astronomy, you can look at the stars, and then it's like using them both together and then finding information out. But it's only a range, it'll only give you a range. So it could tell you that a certain soul is reincarnating. It would be a dark soul, but they try and track good souls too. Reincarnating between, a period of 30 to 50 years. And they're likely to be a certain sign or a certain hair color or something. And so that's what happens on this side. And that's a means of demonic control that they're attempting to use. And that's not to say that that's demonic as itself, but it's the method that they're using it for that creates that demonic part, because it's a way of controlling. I don't know much about astrology, so I can't say for sure like the specifics, but I would almost guarantee it dates back to like basically what I'm saying is it would be in the Bible too, that they're trying to compare it to the Bible in order for everything to line up. because again, it's like they're trying to copy, they're trying to use it. And I would even compare it back to the beginning of my readings, this little series I've been doing, I guess, where I talked about how the Constitution was a business move, and they tried to use the Bible. They again tried to weaponize the Bible, but it ended up working against them because they didn't know that they were doing God's work. God was speaking through them, but they were too naive and evil to see that. They're too selfish to even see the full scope of what they were doing. Right? God works in mysterious ways. And I do notice I'm just now that healing and truth. All of this below, I feel is important. To what capacity, I don't know. To what context is this under? I do not know. I'm only telling you what I was seeing, and when I say they, I do not know who they are. This is mostly just for you guys. For if you are able to decode it, then that's amazing. Please, by all means, share that information or make whatever kind of adjustments that you can in your personal life if you feel that any of this is making any kind of sense. The last two, these are just messages directly for us. We have power of angels. May your angels protect you, guide you, and keep you safe. This is exactly a repetition of these images that I feel they are here. We are surrounded. It feels like there's so many eyes on us. It's not just the world. There's like a lot of beings watching us. A lot of beings watching us. Something extraordinarily important is happening. And we have nurture. Archangel Gabriel, as you nurture a child, you nurture your own inner child. Both activities are important for you right now. Again, surrounded by angels. So, alright, it's the next morning, and I have some other stuff I wanted to say that I forgot to yesterday. One of them, and this is all compartmentalized information that I'm telling you, so each segment, I have no idea what it means. I don't know if they connect or how they connect, if they do, how it's relevant to anywhere in the world or to anyone. So the example that I'm getting though is this. Okay, so this that I'm seeing is specifically tied to what's happening currently, and I'm kind of going rogue with this because I'm just not comfortable. I'm just looking for advice because I don't want to use that. I want to use my own example where essentially I'm getting resistance with that. So hold on, let me figure out, what is this? Okay. Okay, so basically what I'm seeing is that however things are unfolding right now in the world, like these differences in wars, okay, sorry, I'm just trying to get the information. It's been a war about money, right? About power this entire time, obviously. And so, two different ways. You can think about big pharma, or you can think about, you can even take it to a lower level. of a community of gangsters. And this is generalizing because in truth, not a lot of real-time gangsters are like this. It actually gets a little more complex. So I'm simplifying it, and so please take that in mind, because not all gangsters are bad gangsters. So the gangsters, they grow up in a community of crime. They start selling drugs, and so they feed it into the system. They feed it into their neighborhood. That is their target audience. That's their bread and butter, right? So if other people, let's say, it doesn't matter, whoever comes in there and tries to fund the community in order to uplift the community so that they don't get recruited into a gang, then these gangsters are going to go after the money. They're going to go after the competition, because even though these people are trying to do good, that is direct competition with their lifestyle from their life. It's not necessarily that they want something negative to happen or whatever. It's that they not only want the credibility, but they want the money and they want the control, and they have to recruit more people out of there. That's why they get them young, right? So that's a very generalized example. Now you could take it to the higher up and higher up and higher up. Big Pharma, the same thing, right? There's a lot of things that you have to go through loopholes. You have NDAs, you have agreements, you have all these different things to protect them and recruit people, and then snuff out the competition, because it takes away from their main source of money and their control. And so we can go even higher than that, and we look at the government system, different countries' systems of control, and we look at their dollar and how wars can be started and have been started over different things that are posed as lies, whether it's weapons of mass destruction or whatever kind of, these are just examples, oil, whatever, you know, all of this, in order to control the dollar, the country's dollar, peso, whatever, you know. And so that's the example that I'm seeing, is if you mess with my money, if you mess with my leadership, my control, that's it. I'm gonna have to come in and cut you off, because you're a threat to my system. You're a threat to me. Okay. That's that. Last thing I'm gonna say. This, I feel, is related and is also unrelated, because I've had this long, drawn out rant of different videos that I've been talking about, and I mentioned Soros. And yes, I feel that there is involvement here with regards to this, but the way that I mentioned him, I kind of dog-eared in my head of it, because I don't like the way that I brought him up. And I feel like that's disrespecting him in his journey, and it's really undervaluing or misunderstanding or misrepresenting him. I understand that you have to take responsibility for your actions as soon as you're an adult, but anything that happened in his childhood should not ever be weaponized against him. I think that's absolutely abhorrent, should never be done. And while that wasn't my intention, I feel like even just briefly mentioning it, which I wasn't referring to it anyway, I was referring to present day, but I think it could be misinterpreted and it could be seen because it's still relevant. So I want to make that clear. I feel that if you go back to all those, that he is a victim of the system. I really do. He's a victim of the system, and it's not necessarily working for the main thing. It's that they've created layers of traumatized people, layers of trauma, that in order for him to protect himself to protect his own personal empire, that's his legacy, his family, then he has to put his wall up, and it just so happens that it works for the same system. Does he care? I think it's a yes and no, but ultimately it's a self-preservation. I don't feel that he ever had a childhood. I don't feel like he ever had the opportunity at life. I feel like even before the war, it was a tragedy. It was a very hard, stressful, confusing life. I do feel that. And it would be as if you took a child, if you took him, won't they say you took him and you put him with a bunch of building blocks to just play, and he builds a fortress. Yeah, he's having fun, but that's his first thought, is to build something protective. It might be engaging, it might be fun, but he still feels defensive. It would take a lot of time for him to feel safe in an environment in order to really genuinely let his guard down and play. In the world that is created today, some by his design, but mostly not, he doesn't have that ability, especially with all eyes on him for who he has become as far as financially. When you start making a lot of money, a lot of people come out of the woodwork and try and, get a piece of that. And so there is a part of him that is very much legitimately in fear or entrapped, and all he wants to do, selfishly or not, it really doesn't matter, in some regard, but it is because he wants to protect his family. He wants to do what's safe for his family. And I think even just having children is extremely triggering. It brought up a lot of PTSD in a way that it never really manifested until that, it's like that parent gene awakens in you, and you just have to do what you feel is best and that you could do best in order to make sure that you ensure a safe life for those that you're responsible for. That's all that is. I don't think that it's some sort of deeply sinister thing. People aren't perfect. People have their own ulterior motives. People find things that aren't entertaining to others. A very loose example would be vegans and non-vegans. And non-vegans who, I'll take me example. I think it's so sick sometimes thinking about it, is I love chickens. I love chickens. I want to own chickens. I used to own chickens, a lot of them. And I eat chicken. And sometimes I'll have these moments where I'm like, this is absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to eat meat anymore because I just can't. And I'll yeah. And then sometimes I'll thank the chicken, thank the meat, thank you so much for. It's really kind of twisted if you think about where your mind has to make that okay. If in the world today, I can actually eat vegan and be fine. It would just be, a little extra work. And yet I do what's easy. So that's a very, very loose similarity. But, yeah. So, and you also have to kind of take into consideration that I don't know what he identifies as religiously. I would say, if anything, that it's atheist. I don't even think it's agnostic. I think it's more of an atheistic side, because how can something happen the way that it did to me and my family and to those around me? Why me? Why? It would also be a part where this would be very suppressed. It would be suppressed, but it comes up from time to time and then denied and suppressed. That whole layer thought where I wish they would have just left me to my own devices and just died. Like, I would rather not carry this burden. But at the same time, I'm a survivalist, and knowing where I'm at now, that's almost like it would seem as if I would be regretting my life, or I wouldn't have my family if I didn't persevere, if I didn't survive. It's not really persevere, it's if I didn't survive, if I didn't just keep going. It's like giving someone shoes to escape some violent thing, and then running. It's like, put these shoes on so your feet don't get scarred, and just run. And he just never stopped running. And from that, he built up a following, right? And the following is his children. He built all this stuff and his family. And so I don't regret any of that. I'm proud of that. And I'm doing what I can to make sure that everyone is safe. It's safety, 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 preservation, preservation. That's all this is. And it's built off the same enemy as the rest of the population. It's just what he decided to do. It's not to absolve him of his things. It's maybe just to understand him more. I think that if you're he would say he probably isn't sorry. There's a couple things he would bring. Oh, well, you know, that wasn't a smart thing. I won't say I'm sorry, I just didn't know. You know, it's very much it doesn't really want to show that side. It doesn't really want to. When I, you know, if there's things that happen on the other side, when I'm gone, I'll deal with it. I'm not gonna deal with it right now. You know, I just did it. It's done, and let's just keep going. Let's move on, and because it's a buildup. It's a buildup of some really horrific things, right? And the image that I get, it's a constant image of being lifted up. There's some dates that are important too. April 19th through April 22nd, or 2019 to 2022. I don't know. I think this is next month. I don't know. Those are the dates that I see. So, I was going to say something. Oh, I get this image of lifting him up by his, like, underneath, scooping him up under his arms and on his shoulders, like really lifting him up. Because I feel like the biggest message, I'm going to ask real quick. Yeah. The biggest message from his guardian angels, because he doesn't acknowledge currently, understandably, and yeah, I mean, it's his choice, and so they respect that. But again, it's a whole nother ball game when his time comes, and from there they will lift him up. It's like, we will lift you up. We're not going to let you fall. We're not going to let you down. And we want you to understand that they're not going to talk, at least to me. I mean, I don't think that respectfully you can dig into this. without betraying the hierarchy, the order of things, because it's between him and them. So they have, it's like, you will understand when you are no longer here, because this restriction that you have of your mind, of your spirit, we understand this process, and there's not anything for us to reveal to you that you don't want to be revealed. But just know, for the greater good of everyone, and even for you and your soul and your life here, and those that you have positively impact, because there's a lot of good that you've done and a lot of good intentions that you have that they don't go unnoticed. And the things that you've done that you did that had a seemingly negative impact is understood. Like, we get it. We get it. We're not going to let you down. So don't be afraid of the fall. Like, don't be afraid. He wouldn't say that he's afraid. I don't think that he really necessarily feels he's afraid. But it's, don't, if he ever, when he very rarely, not rarely, but from time to time will think to the very end of what will happen in that split moment that the spirit crosses, that we are not going to let you fall. We're not. And there's a bigger purpose to this. So there's a message of trust and belief and comfort and an ease of mind, because they know his heart, they know him better than anyone can ever imagine and understand him. And there's an apology in the sense, I'll tell you what I hear is, we are so sorry you were touched by the kiss of Dracula. We are so sorry that you were touched by the kiss of Dracula. But we will never desert you. We will never leave you or betray you. You will understand. And you've actually done a lot of good. It's a feeling of Robin Hood. There's a feeling of Robin Hood that goes unrecognized. And it's not anything it's not publicized. It's not like, I know I think he owns Netflix. We talked about one of the organizations he's a part of. I'm familiar with some of the other organizations. And it is true, because in the fact of like pinning, he's creating his own devices to create more income for him or create divisiveness, because if the attention is somewhere else, it's not on him. So it's a way to protect him. It's a way to ensure him. It's a way for him to feel that he's in control. And the reason is because of something beyond him, right? That's why. That's not to say that some of the things that he did is misinterpreted. It was meant to be that way. It was meant to be playing both sides and antagonizing certain sides and counterintelligence on certain sides and creating things because that protects him. Yeah, forgiveness and retreat, power of angels, all of this. Yeah. That's it. I don't want to explain anything more of this. I'll read it. Retreat, seek and receive consolation from God to overcome a difficult experience. This is a time for reflection, solitude, and contemplation. Forgiveness is the first step toward letting go of hurt and emotional pain. It heals only you. And that's where I want to stop. Well, I already... that one says no in a temple. Yeah. That's it. Bye.